Vipassana jetzt, ausnahmsweise auf Englisch, weil ich habe einen Gast, der nicht so viel Deutsch spricht. Alon, welcome.
Thank you.
We met exactly 14 years ago. We needed a cook for a retreat, still in the old house, in Haus der Heilkunst. And through a friend, we got recommendations to talk with you, and you could come. And you came from Israel to cook for us.
I was in Germany already then.
You was already in Germany.
Just arrived from Israel, yes.
Yes. And it was such a nourishing contact that now, 14 years later, we are still working together. And I would like to take the opportunity to talk a little bit with you.
Happily.
So partly so the people who come and came to the retreats learn to know you a little bit, your perspective, maybe also your perspective on what we are doing. I think for many people who hear, okay, you come from Israel, you came yesterday.
Yep.
It's not what we are doing, but it's where you come from. How is life for you in Israel now?
Well, it's intense. It's intense and getting more intense. Over the last years, obviously there's been conflict and war ongoing, active.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very intense to be in this environment and to contain all the drastic emotions that it brings up and the stress factor in the society, in the environment. And yet at the same time, it's a wonderful place with wonderful people and a wonderful history, not just the Jewish history, but the human history that's come out of this land. And it's still breathing. This history is still breathing and showing up, showing itself. So it's quite a tough life, but it's a good life. This is what I can say for me. Yeah. I'm very blessed to be on this side of things in this time. But for many people, it's an awfully hard life.
Yeah. You are one of the people cooking for us who also spend time in the meditation hall in the time that you are cooking. For some people, the cooking is just so much work that there is no time. They find no time. Some other people need other ways to regenerate, and they spend their time outside in nature. And you also spend time in the hall. What is your spiritual practice?
Well, I've been regularly meditating in my personal life for the past 13 years. So coming here to a space where people come to practice and sit together and being in this quiet place that we are, it's a big blessing for me, for my own practice, because obviously in my daily life I don't get the chance to sit regularly with people like I do here. Yeah. And also when I do sit with people, it's not necessarily in a space that's been so precisely adjusted and made for people to really have a very, very profound and deep experience of practice and meditation. So for me, meditation is a part of my daily life anyways, and coming here and having the chance to practice in the hall, it's just it's a great blessing.
Yeah. The past 5.5 years, we had a daily live meditation in the morning, and I noticed that you also participate there again and again. We start at 6 o'clock. In Israel, it's 5.
7.
It's 7. Yeah, it's earlier. Okay, it's 7. Okay.
I would like it to start at 6 in Israel. It would be actually better for me if you can.
Would fit better in your schedule.
If your community is agreeing to start at 5.
Highly unlikely. Yeah. So how do you experience sitting online in a group and the guided meditation is in German?
It's a good question. Firstly, because I've been sitting in the hall over the years and listening to your teaching in German, so I feel like I've soaked a lot of it in. And even though I don't understand most of what you're saying, I understand where you're coming from and your intention and you, because we know each other all this time. So it's a great opportunity for me to have a Sangha. I'm an international person, so having an international community that's not where I live it's enriching for me. And having the routine that you maintain so incredibly, really sitting every morning with your community and holding the space, for me it's also a big blessing, because where I am, you're the only person I know that's accessible to me that holds this kind of daily space. So it's great for me to open up the phone, the Zoom, just connect and hear your voice, and it helps me to feel like I'm a part of the group. And when I come here, I feel more connected. So
My first contact with your family was one of your brothers who came to Plum Village when I was there to participate in a peace conference.
that he organized.
That Thich Nhat Hanh and Plum Village organized, and
With
I was
him, he
one
was
of the
the-
people in the support team.
Yeah, he was the Israeli contact for this group. He's the one that
Your brother was the
Yeah.
Israeli contact.
Yeah.
And my responsibility there was taking care of the Palestinian group who were in our hamlet. But then I was also present in the meetings where I think there was about a dozen Israelis and about a dozen Jewish Israelis and about a dozen Palestinians. And they had their talk. This was my first contact with your family, your brother. So he has a contact to the Plum Village tradition, to Thich Nhat Hanh. What is spiritual, non-Jewish spiritual practice in Israel now?
Oh, there's plenty. Because Israelis have been traveling, especially after the army, but not only, for probably 40 years already, 50 years. So many Israelis, secular Israelis, came out of Israel and met spirituality, often for the first time, not in Israel, because our Jewish tradition, like you have with Christianity here in Europe, once you're born into it, you don't necessarily identify with the spiritual side of it. It's more a family tradition and the customs and the holidays. So for Israelis, Jewish Israelis, there's many, you find, I believe, almost every spiritual practice in the land of Israel, whether in bigger groups or smaller groups. But meditation is a very common concept for Jewish Israelis. Also, there's religious Jewish that practice meditation and that adapted the kind of Buddhist perspective onto the Jewish perspective and made a mix. So yeah, it's very, very common.
Okay. Back to here, Vallandar, Germany. So the past 14 years, you have been coming again and again to cook 1 or 2. Now you cook 2 times 10 days. How do you experience this? What is your experience being here cooking? It's work, that's one aspect.
Yeah.
What's the rest?
Well, for me, I think what first really excited me about this work from the first time I met you and we cooperated is that I really have the chance to affect and with love positively people's processes that are going through a very, very in-depth process of introspection and mindfulness and self-development. And this is something that I've always loved to be a part of in my daily profession. I'm an emotional life coach. I coach individuals and couples to make positive changes in their lives. So I was cooking professionally before I started being a coach, but this coaching side of me has always been a part of me from a young age. So being able to go into people's bellies, like I like to say, and to put my intention and love into their experience through the food, it's been a really amazing chance to fulfill myself and give my gift to the world and feel that I'm positively affecting people's lives. At the same time, I get to witness people go through this transformation from the moment they arrive from their life with all the energies, you know, of the outside world, and then see them kind of saying I do, and going into the first evening and the first morning where things are still a bit bubbling in the hall, and then to just see how slowly people are calming down. In the last retreat, I also understood that people don't actually look at each other, that they're guided not to look at each other.
There's no eye contact.
No eye contact. So I'm actually the only one besides you, I guess, and Kati that gets to really, I'm allowed to observe. I especially observe people when they eat because I want to see how they're behaving while they eat the food. So I get my feedback because I can't get feedback through talking with them. So I really get to see this process. Especially I love how I can see it on people's skin, on their face, how you see how the wrinkles, they start to disappear and the light starts to shine through the same places where there was stress or like a shrinking of the facial muscles, and then to talk to them in the end and to hear what they went through and to see. I love the final meal in the last evening where everybody sits together, and to really just see these people that I was only seeing them silent, and maybe I heard them talk a bit when they arrived, but then getting to know them, it's an incredible experience. I think for any person that likes to observe people, it's a really special experience.
I hear from some of the participants that it's difficult for them to imagine how it is to cook without getting feedback, to be silently working and serving 3 meals a day, and nobody gives any feedback. It's not exactly correct because I do give feedback and Kati does give feedback, but how did you learn to cope with this situation?
It took me time. I always remember the first retreat I cooked with you. I was so nervous because it was also the first time I did something like this. I was only 26. Yeah. And I remember myself finishing to serve the meal and going outside and just, I don't know, kind of dancing, just taking all the energies out of my body because there was so much tension for me being in this situation of serving and not knowing, and what if it's not enough? And, you know, and it's not like a regular kind of cooking job or even a retreat cooking job, that it's a busy kitchen that you work and it was quite challenging for me. But over the years, with my own professional experience and with coming here again and again and seeing that I'm doing a good job, people are very happy with what I do. You're happy with what I do. So I eventually eased into it. And today I love it. I love this. It's a kind of an adventure. Colleagues of mine that I tell them about this job, they say, I don't know how you could do it without getting to talk to the people and ask them. But I love it. It's a special kind of experience.
Yeah, I really like the experience with you. You are one of we had many people cooking for us, and you are one of the people who brings in the energy we like. I have the feeling that you also bear the retreat and the participants, that they have a place in your mind when you are cooking, and you see the whole process, the whole group. And for me, it's very good to experience that you, in the morning and in the evening, you are in the hall and you meditate with us. So you're connected to the process. I hope, I wish that for all cooks, but it's not. With many, it's not there, and still they can be perfect for the job. How do you manage your time? Because you are cooking for 24 people, and you serve a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner. You have a tea table, you have fruits and other things at the buffet that people can take for themselves. And then you have to go shopping. You have to plan what you do. You have to keep your kitchen clean. You don't have actually. Kati and I, we help with the dishes that come from the dining hall, but your own cleaning in the kitchen is also your thing. How did you learn to manage to do so much and to do so much continuously? Like now you are 20 days working and there's no break day. How do you experience this? What did you learn? How did you learn to do it?
It has been a process. Firstly, I'm a naturally very organized person and clean person. So I think from this side, when we first came together and worked together, I was able to adapt myself to your needs pretty quickly because I have this orderly way of being in my own personal life. And I think also because I was young when I started, I was able to take in a lot of your input and a lot of your suggestions, and I wasn't fighting it. My ego wasn't thinking, oh, I already know how to do this, so he shouldn't tell me what to do. I was very open.
Yeah.
And so in some way, I can say that the foundations of my professional cooking career were based with you.
Yes.
And so coming back over time and also seeing the systems that you developed and the order that you and Kati developed and that Kati developed over her time, I really was open to taking it in and learning from the experience made when I'm not here. And by today, I already understand the job in such a way that I have the overview of the time and the amounts and how much and the shopping. And because I'm an organized person, so I know how to plan. I have a good ability to plan and foresee time lengths and how much time something will take me. So it's my professionality. It's
What I noticed in Israel, I was also this year, I spent some time in Israel. And what I noticed is Sabbath is respected by almost everyone.
yeah.
Almost anyone. So you are used to 6 days action, 1 day calm. How do you cope 20 days action, no Sabbath?
That's a good question too. I think the practice of mindfulness here, especially, and in the kitchen even more. Over the days, I go through this process of becoming more and more calm and present. Obviously, also coming from a very stressful place, and then making the journey, which adds stress in a way. But then, thanks to the practice and the atmosphere here, over the days, I as well calm down. And I find the way to integrate rest into the daily work in a way that it doesn't get too heavy on my shoulders.
Yes.
And it's not easy for me to not have this resting day. It's true, my system is really used to this rhythm. But I think psychologically and intentionally, because I know I'm coming to serve. So there's this saying in Hebrew, pikuach nefesh doche Shabbat. Means if you're practicing or doing something that's meant to look after another soul, like on a deep level, so you're allowed to not to keep the Shabbat. This is for religious people. For secular people, but it's this idea for me that I come for service, and I know it's temporary.
Yeah.
So I prepare for this mentally before I come, and then when I'm here, on the Shabbat, I do lower my pace.
Yes.
It comes naturally and also consciously because I feel it in my body that today I'm more calm.
Yeah.
So it works together because this is not like some kind of a food court and some festival, you know. This is a place where people come to calm. So in some way, every day is a bit like Shabbat for me on the energetic level and on the practical level. So I deal with the physical challenge, which like I said, because it's integrated with rest and with a pace that I'm more and more conscious over the days, so it doesn't become something heavy for me to carry.
And how did you learn to, because you start your day, what I see is when people are really engaged in the kitchen, and quite some of the cooks are, then it's very much like a retreat. You wake up, you sit on, you are in the hall at 6 o'clock to sit in the kitchen, to sit in meditation with the rest. And when the group starts to move at 7:30, something like that, they start to do prostrations, and you go in the kitchen, and their movements are like this, and your movements are like that. It's quite the same. And the participants have a program that runs through the whole day without a break. And of course, there is time to go to the toilet and time to eat, and there is time for everything you need, but there's no time where you sit and you think, okay, what will I do with this time? So I can choose freely anything I want. There is none of that. And I noticed that in the kitchen, if you really, and you do it, and I've also see it with Dionysia and with Mark and with several other cooks, engage the whole day. How do you experience this? What does this do for you? And maybe also, where are the difficulties?
Well, again, it's something I've learned over time, thanks to the experience I've gained here. I appreciate it because I'm a very independent person in my daily life. I'm an independent business, and I'm a person that's really stubborn about keeping life to be something I live from choice, and not getting caught up in expectations of other people from me or society. So I'm actually very used to managing my time very, very freely. Sometimes it's too free for me. Sometimes I would like some more structure. So coming for a temporary period of time to a place where I have this environment, which I can, it's a structure that I choose. It's not forced upon me. I want to have this structure for this time that I'm here. So I actually enjoy it. It is important for me to have time to rest between. Not every day it's possible. When I shop, I don't have time to rest or to take a walk. But it balances itself out all in all, because over time being here, so my stress factor comes down, and after a few days of cooking, the system is already working inside of me. So everything kind of just, I know what to do, and it happens when it needs to happen. And very rarely do I get to a point where I'm like, oh, I don't have enough time, or I'm stressed more than I want to be, and I don't like this feeling because I'm serving food for people that are meditating.
Yeah.
Very rarely it happens to me. But it is very important for me over time. It has been and still to learn how to do things more and more simply and effectively. So I waste minimum energy on any action that I do. And this is actually something I've been learning a lot from through you, through knowing you and the way that you approach things and how you live your life. And I consider you a Zen master. So I learn from just, that's me. I learn from observing you, and from being, for working for you, and how you guide me through your needs and over time. But I'm happy to say it's working through persistence, like any life practice. And the persistence has enabled me to learn to be very, very, to come to a more and more fine level of that the actions that I do, they go really deep inside from a deep intention, and they manifest on a very clearer and cleaner level from retreat to retreat.
If you put your family and other responsibilities and so on aside, and how long do you think you can do this continuously? So we have 4 blocks of retreats, and one of the blocks in December, January is 45 retreat days, one after the other, no break in between. How long do you think you can do this?
Well, this time doing 20 days, it's the first time that I'm doing 20 days. So I'll see after I do it how it was to do 20 days. It was actually the last time I was here when I cooked 14 days was the first time since coming here that I was suddenly feeling, wow, that ended quite fast. Like just once I started to feel like it's starting to penetrate deep inside of me, the practice and being here. So it ended. And I told you, like, it would be good to do this for a longer time. And this time I came for a longer time. But I cannot imagine my life without my daughter. And so that's why I cannot imagine it for an ongoing time. But for just alone, for me personally, from a challenge perspective, an adventure perspective, I would do it for 45 days for sure.
Yeah.
For the adventure, just to have, to
Yeah.
go through it, I would do it for sure.
We often hear from here that people say they just cannot imagine how it is to be continuously in responsibility and continuously locked in a schedule from waking up to going to bed over a long period, like 45 days. And people just can't imagine how it could function. And I'm a bad example to explain this, because for me it's very natural. I could do this 3 months in a row. There's no problem. I have time enough to go to a shower, to clean my teeth, to move my body a little bit, to eat. I have everything I need. Yeah? And like you, you have a daughter, I have a son. I cannot imagine not seeing my son. So there is a limitation to the process. But the limitation is not, I am too tired, or I feel like doing something else now. I'm bored with this. What did you find out there? What do you need to know, understand, do, to be able to work continuously?
I think quite simply, I would say that meditating morning and evening, that's a container that enables a really long stretch of doing anything for me.
Yeah.
Because once I have this framework, so I know I have somewhere that everything comes down to, and then I have this moment to myself going inside, practicing in a group, in a sangha, it empowers the practice than sitting alone. So as long as I know that I have this environment and that I don't have to come every day, I can choose if one day I want to stay longer in bed in the morning, so I can. And if one day I want to go to sleep earlier, then I can. So this is pretty much what enables me. And aside that, I like adventures. I like challenges that I know I can do, but I'm afraid to do.
Yeah.
But I know that I can manage it if I choose. And then to walk this path of doing this, going through this challenge. And for me, this is one of the best flavors of life.
What are the mistakes you shouldn't make if you have a stretch like this ahead? Because I think many people know the challenge, that they have a long stretch, and you have maybe Christmas. For many people, the month before Christmas, people are so busy. Yeah, and they feel like I have no time for myself. And they feel exhausted in the end of the stretch. What is the secret? What are the secrets? What not to do when you have a stretch like that ahead of you?
I can't think of something not to do. I guess when I look at myself, why it's possible for me to do this, I think living most of my life in Israel, it's conditioned me in a quite a rough way, Also serving in the army, I wasn't a fighter, but just having to be so committed to something, even if I didn't want to go, it's the law, and it was, if I wouldn't go, so it would be, I could be punished to the level of jail.
Yeah.
So being conditioned in this environment and seeing people do very hard positions of life, people around me being fighters and devoting their lives to the bigger purpose that they believe in, I think it gave me the ability to know that it's very possible. If this is your reality, if this is what you need to do, it's possible. And eventually I come here for work.
Yeah.
So I need to work anyways. So if I can work in an environment that also nourishes me and work with people that I believe in what they do and support them and support human beings on their journey of development while I'm doing all of this, so it drives me. It gives me a lot of driving force to do it. But I think what not to do would be to not practice meditation while you're cooking for people meditating. I think
Yeah.
that would be very hard if you're living your own, if you're separating it completely.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people that could do it, but for me, that would be a big no-no.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen that in action.
Yeah, I know.
So you frame it in meditation time in the morning, in the evening. And what is it? What's meditation for you? What is it you do or don't do?
Meditation for me is the chance to face and recognize all the processes that are happening within me. Because I find for myself, when life becomes really hard for me, is when I don't really get the chance to stop and acknowledge what's actually going on inside of me. And I'm an emotional person. I'm intuitive. I'm an empath. So I feel people's energy. I see, I feel. So I need this buffer time to be able to let everything come up to the surface. And meditation is the practice that enables me to observe it and to enable more intense, dense feelings to come up over my life. I'm learning that I can also sit with that. This would be, yeah.
Okay.
This is
Oh, that's a beautiful description of meditation. So you say you started cooking professionally for 13 years, and for 14 years you cooked your first retreat with us. Your journey as a cook, part of your professional, because you're more a life coach than a cook.
yeah.
So your professional life as a cook started here. What did you learn about cooking these 14 years?
Well, it's quite practical, I can say. The most important thing I learned was how effective it is to work clean. And this is something I've noticed working with in other kitchens, with other cooks, other chefs,
Yeah.
even professional chefs that manage, operations, not just I need to go and cook.
Yeah.
At least in Israel, where I've done most of my professional cooking, I was amazed sometimes to see how unaware people are of how much energy they waste when they work in chaos, or they just don't work consciously step by step.
Yeah.
Step, and then you clear it, and then the next step. It wasn't clear for me when I started working here, but this gave me the foundation, getting to know you and your kind of advice for me. And then also working with Kati for a certain period here in the kitchen and seeing how she was new in this and she was really learning through you her own way. And I guess this is also a gift of learning and cooking in Germany, that naturally the atmosphere here is more of practicality and efficiency and order. And this is something that I naturally connect with. So I think that would be the biggest lesson that I learned and practiced. And then coming to Israel, where I worked in kitchens that were very unorganized, uncomfortable. But thanks to my ability to organize very quickly, I was able to bring it up to the standard I need and then maintain it through the retreat. And then I would get feedbacks that people were telling me, even I cooked for big festivals, outdoor kitchens that were just, I had to build myself.
Yeah.
And in environments that are very rough, actually.
Yeah.
And I was able to maintain this cleanliness, this mindful kind of calmness in this atmosphere. And I was working in some festivals, people working next to me with other businesses, they were telling me, your calmness and your cleanliness and order is radiating onto us. And it's helping us be more calm and be more tidy and more clean. So it was very clear to me, this is the power, this is the gift that I've...
So how do you learn, how do you practice or live this under time pressure?
That's a very good question. I know about myself that from a young age, I was given the ability to plan and see processes ahead. So for me, my starting point, it wasn't like another person, because I already started from a point where this was something I had. I can plan a process, but it did take me some years of, I was at some point cooking for people in their homes, and I would come with a menu that they would choose in advance, and they would prepare the produce, but every kitchen was different.
Yeah.
And that was a really good training ground to learn how to manage. Because I was earning not so much money, so I really wanted to keep the time frame. Also, sometimes it was just the time they were out, so if they came back and started walking around between my feet, that would be really hard. So I would really want to manage it. So I would sit before every cooking session, and I would plan each step I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this, then I'm going to put this on the stove, then
Yeah.
and I was doing this for about 2 years. By the end of it, I didn't need to plan anymore because I already had the idea, and it stayed with me.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. I had a similar experience. I learned cooking living in with 14 students in one house, and we all had to do our contribution. And I didn't want to contribute in cleaning and stuff like that. So I offered contributing in cooking Indian food, but from Indonesia, Indian. Very complex, many dishes. And the deal was I cook 4 days a week, one meal, and all the rest is done. And no other responsibility. And this was only possible with good planning. And for me, planning is a very unnatural thing. And I made exactly this experience. Planning, I need to plan it meticulously to be able to perform. And after a few years, I don't need to plan anything because it's known. And from there, the next step cooking for me was to go in the weekends and to cook on ships.
Oh.
And so we had groups from between 6 and 40 people, and I was on board to be the cook. And I worked for through an agency, and they did the planning. So basically, I came on the ship and I saw the menu. And I didn't do the shopping. I couldn't go shopping anymore because we were underwater. And how to handle this situation in a kitchen. And it was great because it really forced me to organize my stuff and to really plan and think through. And yeah, but we're more about you here. But it's really nice to hear this. Anything else you learned about cooking?
Yeah. I think here I learned how people can feel me without talking to me, even without looking at me, just through the food they eat that I made.
Yeah.
I've received over the years some very incredible reflections that people gave me.
Yeah.
I was touched deeply. Like this person really felt me, but he didn't even see me serving him the food.
Yeah.
The food was ready made. He just came in and ate the food.
Yeah.
And I think that's to do with the fact that people go deeper and deeper into themselves, and they're guided through you to really feel their sensations. And some people know how to express it very well as well. And that was even a life changer, I would say, for me. Because I took it with me everywhere, in everything I do, not just in cooking.
Yeah.
But I cook a lot, and I love cooking for people. So especially cooking for people, it took me to the place where I understood that even if I take 20 seconds before I start cooking, and I just connect with why I'm cooking for this person, why I want to, or how happy I am that this person is coming to my house, I don't do this systematically. I don't have a routine of doing this, but it shows up in different ways. So it might show up that I'm starting to cook and I noticed I'm like very short with my patience and not calm. And then I say, okay, so what do I need to do to be more calm? And then I notice, oh, it's annoying me that the drying rack of the dishes has this dishes in it, because now I'm gonna have to put more dishes, and then I'm gonna have to do it.
Yeah.
So I noticed that this is already annoying me before I start cooking.
Yeah.
And so I can attend to that, and then I clear the space, and then I become more calm, just so the experience of the people will have of eating what I cook will be better, and for me to cook it and to serve it will be better. So it's like it's a lesson I learned through the kitchen, but it's actually projecting into many areas of my life, even in communication with people, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Most participants are not aware that they feel your moods, your heart. They feel your energy. They're eating from your gift, your energy. Most people don't notice this, but many people do. And actually, we all feel this. We feel the energy of the people around us, and we drink, we breathe, we eat. Anyone who is in our surrounding, and this is a continuous process.
Yeah.
And in a retreat, the cook is a really, really important part of the whole setting. You cannot. We made some experience with professional cooks who came and just did their thing, and maybe what came on the buffet was the same as what you put on the buffet, but there was no connection, no heart connection, and it's completely different. It changes it changes meditation in the whole. So one of the reasons why I really like to work with you is that you manage, I know you for 14 years now, and for 14 years you come here and your heart is in your service. And the last years I've learned to know another side of you, because after the crisis in Israel, the first time I met you after October 7th, you were like so disturbed, so so messed up, so that and you came, and I still felt your service, and then your disturbed mind, your the lack of liberty, and I was really touched that you were able to serve with this. You were not really there, but you were really serving, and that touched me, and showed me something, that it's possible also under extreme situation. I met you a few times in these last few years, and also shortly after this the conflict with Iran broke out, and there you were really, how would I say, scared. You were just messed up by fear and uncertainty and agitation, and you were still there in the kitchen. That really impressed me.
Yeah, it's touching for me to hear, because it makes me see myself from the outside and and see that what's held me over the years, living such my own independent journey, was the really profoundly deep belief in knowing that the love is encompassing everything. And for me, this is a knowing. And this is also what's helped me to maintain a positive approach to life, even when I went through very, very hard times. It's kind of like a gift, or the word superpower comes to my mind, but it's not a power. It's more a place I can rest in. And I just think I was born with this. I can't explain how I'm able to do this, but for me, coming to serve, it doesn't matter what I'm going through. I always know that this is the best thing I can do for myself. Even if I'm in a very hard situation, I often imagine if I'm a part of an environment that happens a disaster in, I'll definitely be cooking for people.
Yeah.
I will definitely be there cooking for the people, using whatever I have, whatever ingredients I'm given, because I know it's kind of also my lifeline. It helped me go through times where I was living life consciously without money. I was just serving everywhere I went, just offering people to cook for them and touching their hearts through the food. And I know that no matter what happens, this is always there for me. It's always a safe place to connect with this love that's encompassing everything. Yeah.
So cooking is one of your trades. Your main trade is coaching or guiding people, supporting people. What is your, how are you coaching? What are you, what's your offer?
Well, I studied what's called holistic life coaching in a very good establishment in Israel. My teacher, she was a master of the profession. I was very lucky and blessed to learn from her. And I actually got to coaching because my whole life I was in this position from a very young age. I remember talking on the phone to my friends and being in this role of reflecting the positive sides of things, and also being able to be with people in their hardship. And I actually arrived to coaching the profession through my work with the Mayan natural time wisdom. It's a tool that's also been the same time, more or less, when I met you. It came into my life really like a gift, like it opened up, and it's something that I discovered is existing within me. And I was consciously working with the Dream Spell calendar, the Tzolkin calendar, for 8 years daily, and also studying people through their personal sign, personal astrology. And after 8 years, I was really demanded again and again by people to start teaching them and giving them map readings. And so I started doing that just when COVID started and stopped all of my cooking work.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, so I just shift now to my more spiritual guiding part of me. And I started offering map readings, and it was very successful. Many people came to me. And shortly after, people started to ask me to guide them. And I started doing it. And very quickly, I noticed that I don't have a structure to work from that I can come back to and keep. And then, like most of my life, it was quite magically synchronized that I started hearing about this holistic coaching training. It's a 2-year training, 1 year theoretical and 1 year practical. And I decided to go for it. And there I got the tools and also the possibility to be guided while practicing and doing my practicum in this 100 hours with guidance. And so ever since, I've been coaching, and then I specialize in coaching couples and people that want to go into relationships. And so since then, I've been guiding and coaching individuals, couples, and business owners to make a positive change in their life, in their business, in their relationships. I put a big emphasis on work with conflicts within the family. This is something I also combine the Mayan wisdom and the Mayan astrology as a tool for diagnosis. And I've actually started in the last 2 years to teach Chinese medicine practitioners here in Germany in English how to integrate the calendar and as a tool for diagnosis, very precise diagnosis for people that come to them. All you need is a birth date. And as a teacher, because I've grounded this wisdom so much into me and into my life, so I can teach it from a place that I'm vouching based on my own life experience. So if anybody ever comes with a question, I can answer from my own personal experience. It's not from knowledge that I accumulated from learning.
Yeah.
So the coaching is developing. I'm pretty much showing up for what I'm being asked to do. So the couples started approaching me in the last year and a half. So I've been starting to get more and more couples, and I love coaching couples. I feel it's a very, very meaningful and important work that I'm doing, and I see the change and the differences that it makes for the couples. Also guiding parents regarding their children. This is something I really find very deep importance in, and I also guide young people. Already from the age of 17, I had people coming to me, and 18 and 20 and 21, and people starting to ask the big life questions, what am I meant to do? Where should I go? And this perspective of this tool, of this calendar, it gives such a beautiful insight on our strengths and our natural gifts that we were born with, and the challenges that we go through over our life, and where we take the energy to deal with them and where it leads us. So it gives me a big kind of guiding map to approach a person that I know I have some people that I'm coaching now for 3-4 years. And I've seen them make the most incredible, unbelievable things happen in their lives. And I must say that I give myself very, very little credit for it. My role is to reflect and empower people and to reflect to them their own strengths. And I love it. It's since I'm an English speaker, so I also get online work from people, English speakers. I have people in Germany that I work with, and in different places in the world, and I love it. It's really.
Did I hear you that you said people who want to start a relationship?
That want to go into relationships.
They want to go into intimacy or into partnership, and you guide this process
as well. Yes.
How do they find you?
Well, over the years, I put a lot of energy into social media, mostly Facebook, but I also have a newsletter, and I also worked with Instagram, and I have a WhatsApp groups and a Facebook group. And I got quite a bit of exposure, especially at the beginning of my way through this. But today, most people come to me from word to mouth, from recommendations. Yeah.
And what did you learn so far from guiding people who get into a relationship and who want guidance in that process?
I think I can say that usually someone that feels he needs help to get into a relationship is facing obviously some kind of self-esteem hardships, not being able to recognize their own gifts, what they can bring, and why they deserve to have a good relationship. So it's a lot of work on that level. The next level is also to helping people that didn't grow up in an environment that they saw healthy relationships, which is many of us, including myself. So that's my own life experience too. Often don't have an example in their mind of what can a good relationship for me look like. So I help people connect to this vision, to this idea of, okay, so they know they want, but what do you want? What do you really, really, really want? If I kind of push you to the wall and tell you, now you're going to tell me what you really, 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 really want with no conditions, if anything was possible. And just for people to go through this kind of, to have someone take them on that path, it gives a lot of clarity. And maybe the biggest thing I learned is when someone has clarity on their own intention and the belief that it's possible that this intention can manifest, it happens pretty much on its own. I don't need to do more than that. Maybe just remind them.
Is it about what we want, relationship?
It's a mix of what we want and what we need, and also how we're able to foresee our future. Because we can wish many wishes, But if when we take it down to the ground and we look at what's the life I see myself living, eventually there's a lot of reproduction of past patterns and what I grew up in. This is what people usually expect if they don't consciously work on it. So I've discovered that bringing this clarity and helping people recognize their needs and their wishes and where they are right now in regarding to their needs and wishes, as long as they have a platform that they feel that they can take a step and then come back to the safe place and reflect on it and get guidance and get empowerment, they keep going because they came to me with their own will. I didn't create the will for them. So.
So you're 3 weeks here, and then it's back to Israel.
Then I'm actually going to Berlin to give a few days seminar, continuing work with the Chinese medicine practitioners, and then back to Israel. Yes.
What can we in Germany learn from Israel?
I think, wow, there's so much to learn from Israel, from Israelis, from all the people living on this land, not just Israelis, not just Jews. It's a big question. I'll try to find a simple way to answer it. But what comes to me is that we as Israelis, we grew up with conflict, but not a conflict that's like very clearly, you know, I stand on this side and he stands on that side, and he's the enemy and I'm the good person and we're fighting. It's a very complex situation because it involves religion and spirituality and history, modern history, ancient history. So many of us, not all obviously, but learn to live life with a very accepting that life is very complex. There's no black and white, right, wrong of any kind that you can draw a direct line through the whole of humanity and have it right. From my experience, Germany is the country I spent most time in besides Israel. I lived in Berlin when I was 22, 23 for 14 months, and ever since I've come back plenty of times. I can't count how many, and I feel very much in many ways, you know, as an Israeli, I'm kind of a German Israeli. Like there's this, in Israel, there is a way, and not just in Israel, of perceiving Germans, you know, very kind of in some way strict and efficient and orderly and not easily crossing the lines of what's accepted and how it's meant to be done. And I think if I could kind of infuse the German society with a spice of my choice, it would be something to do with flexibility and being able to see that life is very complex and there's no definite right and definite wrong.
Yeah.
And I would say this is something that definitely we Israelis, we can teach not just Germans, but all Western societies that are kind of living in a way that there is a fixed way of how things should be done and how you should look like and how you should behave like. And it's hard to accept when something is very different from you. Even if it's tolerated, it's not necessarily accepted. Yeah. And I'm talking about the acceptance level, like profoundly accepting it's just like this and it's different. And I just got to learn how to live with it because it's just how it is and it's not going to change. Even if I really want it to change, I can't make it go away. Yeah.
Well, obviously not everybody understands that because some people are trying to bomb some other people away.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah.
It's what is it we do not see or understand in Germany about Israel?
I'm guessing, I'm not sure this is 100% true, but I'm guessing that the Israeli society is made out of people from cultures from all over the world. It's not uniform, it's not unanimous. And inside the Israeli society, we have a high percent of Arabs that live amongst us. In my town where I live,
Yeah.
we're neighboring, probably in the whole of Israel. It's one of the few places that's really, there is no separation between us and the neighboring Arab villages. We live right next to each other. We drive next to each other. We buy from each other. There's Arab shop owners in my town. I go shop in their town. They're used to us coming to them. They're happy we come to them because we appreciate their service and the way they do things. And the same vice versa. There's a lot of cooperation already happening all the time. We don't need to talk about it because it's normal.
Yeah.
This is our life. And inside this society, there are many bridges already built from the past and being built these days between the different peoples living in this land, not just Muslim and Jewish,
Yeah.
Christian and many different kinds of Christian and many different kind of Jewish people. The Jewish people and the Israeli people is not one thing. And this is something that's hard to grasp when you only see reality through the news.
Well, 20% of Israelis are Arabs,
Yeah.
and that's excluding the West Bank and Gaza. That's what I heard. I'm
Yeah, this is what I'm
maybe wrong.
familiar with
Yeah.
as well.
So there's many. But on my visits, I didn't see very much contact. I remember once I asked you, do you have Arab friends? Did your
Yeah.
answer change, or is it the same?
I wouldn't say I have Arab friends, no, but I could say that the Arab people that I meet through my day, I
Yeah.
feel very connected to and I personally really appreciate the Arab culture
Yeah,
very much. Like I learn a lot, I think, as European Jews.
yeah,
We have so much to learn from the kind of the native Middle Eastern people with which we live.
yeah,
So making friends is a certain level. It demands from both sides a will and the environment to actually make a deep bond, because we don't have a place where we can connect. But for example, my daughter, this might be interesting for our listeners, when she was in kindergarten, we put her into one of, I think, 2 or 3 Waldorf kindergartens that are mixed.
yeah.
We would say Hebrew speakers and Arab speakers.
Yes.
That was the distinction. And it was in the neighboring Arab town. And she had a kindergarten teacher that was Jewish Israeli and Arab Israeli.
Yeah.
And they spoke, the Arabic kindergarten teachers were speaking mostly Arabic, and Hebrew ones speaking mostly Hebrew.
Yeah.
And in that environment, I got to come close to some Arab-speaking Israelis, and it was a very natural and loving and warm connection. Naturally, in their society, I mean, I'm from European background, so my parents, so we're less warm in our natural tendency towards other people. But they are very warm. They have hospitality as one of the main values of their entire society for generations.
Yeah.
So they're very welcoming and very warm and very open. And this is a very good feeling for me because it's not my nature.
Yeah.
And so I can assume that if we were going a long way together, we would have deepened the connections. But they were warm and friendly for the time we were next to each other. Otherwise, we don't have where to meet so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all the words.
It's my pleasure.
And this is not the place to thank you for 14 years of cooperation. But that gratefulness is definitely there. And I hope we have many more years together.
Me too.
Yeah. Is there something you would like to add, or you have a question?
I think mostly I feel to add to our listeners, especially participants of this group, of your teaching, of this way, that I really appreciate each and every one of you for coming here and for choosing to incorporate this practice into your lives. And that it's a really big blessing for me to come here every time and be a part of this. And that I'm always really, really touched to see the transformations that they go through here, and it's a big gift for me. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Alon.
My pleasure. Thank you.
In 2.5 hours, we start our next retreat with dinner.
Yes.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to 3 weeks. Thank you.